Hello YouTube, it's Bobby3 back with another kicking graphic novel review. Today we are looking at The Green Lantern Volume 2, The Day the Stars Fell. Yes, this is part of the Grant Morrison Green Lantern run. I've only read the first half. There's 4 books in total, and this is the second one. And I think it's split up into 2 seasons, so after this Volume 2 is another Volume 1. So, yeah, and I liked the first one, and I liked this one too, but not as much as the first one. And last time we talked about Swamp Thing, so I guess I've accidentally hopped back onto Weird DC. I'll try to do something else next time to break it up. And I say try to because I really want to do another Swamp Thing next time. Anyway, let me read you the back of the book here, folks. The night ahead is long and dark. Wherever Hal Jordan goes, from the crumbling city inside his power ring to a fantasy planet of wizards and dragons, an entire multiverse of allies old and new await to help him in his quest. But even though Hal can always count on partners like Green Arrow and Carol Ferris to be in his corner, he'll have to face his greatest challenge alone. The evil Black Stars have created the ultimate engine of destruction, the Antimatter Lantern. Now a journey into the Antimatter universe will take Hal to the very edge of reality, where the Green Lantern will have to make his final stand. Acclaimed writer Grant Morrison, who worked on one of my favorite books of all time, All-Star Superman, and also Wonder Woman Earth 1, and artist Liam Sharp from The Brave and the Bold, Batman and Wonder Woman, continue their mind-bending reinvention of the universe's greatest intergalactic lawman. The Green Lantern collects the Green Lantern 7 through 12, and annual, and number 1. Anyway, let's get into it right now. First off, beautiful art. A lot of different greens, great line work. It's wonderful. And it has some very interesting panels, like some very kind of storybook-esque paneling at the beginning. And when I read the back of the book, there was a big spoiler right on the back of the book. And that pisses me off when they do that. Recently, I reviewed Inferno Girl Red. Maybe not recently. Could have been weeks ago. I don't know. I just edited it, but by the time this goes up, it'll have probably been up for a while. But Inferno Girl Red had a huge spoiler on the back. Right in the beginning of the read-up on the back of the book, it had a huge, huge spoiler for the end of the book, which is insane. And then this one did too, because this first arc, Hal Jordan is trapped in a world inside his ring. And here's the thing. I kind of figured that was the case anyway, because it seems like he's gone inside his own ring at the end of the previous volume to this. So I think a lot of readers will actually catch on to that anyway. But oh well. And there's this wizard, Mirrodin, who is a deep pull. Morrison really likes taking comic characters that have kind of been forgotten and then bringing them into their stories. So you always get a lot of weird little, often Silver Age-y kind of characters. And I know Hal Jordan himself is a Silver Age character, but Morrison loves to bring a lot of weird stuff in, like Samson and Atlas in All-Star Superman and whatnot. It's actually pretty rad. But, you know, Hal Jordan's in here, and everything and everyone are green, and all this stuff is happening. It's very interesting. There's all these kind of Alice in Wonderland-y looking creatures, but it's not as hackish as Alice in Wonderland. That's right, I said it. Eat my ass. But visually, it's probably the most interesting part of the book. The paneling in this is insane. I talked, in my last review, Swamp Thing Green Hell, I talked about how I wish the paneling was more interesting, because Swamp Thing has a long history of crazy, weird panels. And the panel layouts in that book were so standard, except for one page closer to the end. But in this book, the panels are crazy from page 1, dude. Page 1, panel craziness. And then there's also these, like, wild criminals. And we get a bit of a Green Lantern, Green Arrow reunion, which I really liked. It was, oh my gosh, it was such crazy Silver Age fun. It was just a really fun, nice break between arcs with these, like, it's called Space Junkies. And there are these giant interdimensional versions of themselves. Zine Arrow instead of Green Arrow. And which is like this giant version of him that communicates telepathically, but he seems to only be able to telepathically communicate with Green Arrow. And, you know, crazy interdimensional hell aliens. God, it's an amazing book. And there's this really cool kind of cyberpunky space dude, this, like, cyborg alien Oni on the moon, who's like a horse cannon. I can't explain this. Morrison's books are so weirdly fun and enjoyable. Now, a lot of people, I've found out, actually didn't like this run. I thought it was a pretty well liked run until I actually read it. Well, I've only read the first 2 volumes, but I read these volumes and I really liked them. But then, like, before I read it, as I said, everyone seemed to like it, and then after I read it, a bunch of people seemed to not like it. I don't know. It's different. It's really different, and I like that a lot. They shoot a giant arrow to the moon to stop a robot alien demon. There's a giant, lanky, intergalactic Zine Lantern. It doesn't get better than this. And then you see a Sinestro, but he's like an antimatter Sinestro. So he's kind of Sinestro's opposite, and he's a good guy, but only sort of. There's really a lot going on here. And then there's this crazy, weird space superhero team that I'm sure is also from the Silver Age. And there's this giant elemental being, and Hal Jordan is trapped on, like, a fantasy planet where it's like Dungeons and Dragons happening, but the Justice League incarnate demon Green Lantern is there. It's insane. And then they have to do this kind of Spider-Verse-y Green Lantern thing, because there's this antimatter lantern who is like an organic machine Hal Jordan kind of guy, who I love the look of. He looks insane. But his speech bubbles are backwards. So, like, it's hate, but not spelled backwards. It's like a mirror image of the word hate. And that kind of gives me a little bit of a headache. But then, you know, some Green Lanterns from another dimension all come to get Hal and the Demon Lantern. And there's, of course, like a Green Lantern-y Elseworlds Batman. There's a hippie one who I actually thought was really funny. And then there's a Hal Jordan who, instead of a lantern, has a flashlight, who actually had an outfit that slaps, I'm not going to lie. But there were a lot of really cool lanterns. A lot of really cool different lanterns, and a lot of really cool, insane art. There's this villain who's very clearly supposed to be a Yellow Submarine Blue Meanie that that the hippie Green Lantern fights. The Batman Green Lantern has to fight this shark gangster. And he has like a Construct Alfred, which I think is very interesting. Very, very interesting. They just did a good job fleshing out these lanterns in only a couple pages. Really, they did. And I really applaud that. Also, I can't stress enough how beautiful the art is. Gorgeous. Incredible. Like, it doesn't get better. And I love how many different greens they use. Anyway, they gotta talk to an undead trinity on another planet with this big sentinel dude who has this giant lantern. And then there's a Carol Ferris from another dimension that fights alongside Hal, and she is a star sapphire, which is pretty cool. But the Golden Lantern, the Cosmic Grail, this is a book you just have to read yourself. It can be a little confusing, especially with Morrison making a lot of new characters and also using old characters that a lot of people might not be familiar with. But it's a good book. The art is incredible. It's a very interesting story. A lot of people don't seem to think so, I guess, but when you go into a Morrison book, you know that their work is going to be weird. You know that it's probably going to be confusing too. But that's why Morrison is such an impactful writer. They write these incredible, unique stories. They try to do something different than every other author does. And I think that works great for Green Lantern. Like, the Jeff Johns Green Lantern run is probably never going to be beat. It's incredible. It's one of the things that got me as diehard into comics as I am now. I was reading it in high school, and it made me fall in love with comics all over again, and that carried into adulthood and hasn't slowed down an iota. But Green Lantern, it's a space book where there's just so many cool, weird things can happen in space, especially when you have such a crazy power set like Green Lanterns have. You know, I think Green Lantern should be a weird book. And I'm glad that Morrison and seemingly DC agree. But yeah, Hal has to team up with this Sinestro from another dimension, which he's not happy about, to fight this antimatter lantern, who I do want a figure of. Green Lantern is one of those things where I just want as many action figures of all these different lanterns as possible. I'm trying to slow down on collecting Western superhero figures. I'm still going to always get Ultraman and Kamen Riders and stuff, but I'm trying to slow my roll with Western superheroes. But still, God, I love collecting lanterns. But yeah, Dark Stars are doing their thing. There's a big bomb and all this crazy stuff. And then there's like this antimatter and lantern core at the end, which I'm excited to see, but the mirrored words give me a headache. I mean, I can read them just fine, but when there's a bunch of them, I gotta read. It's so odd. And then there's another story about Hal and his family and this kind of radio wave entity, which I thought was really fun. I thought it was really fun. One of Hal's nephews becomes the superhero Airwave, who looks a lot like Black Vulcan. If you don't know who Black Vulcan is, that's fine. If you don't know, that's more than okay. But yeah, then we get a Green Lantern version of the electric entity. And it has a very weird ending. A lot of weird stuff going on. And of course, a variant cover gallery in the back. Most of the variant covers aren't terribly interesting. I like one from number 12 by Riley Rosmo. Kind of looks very deceased-y. But most of the variant covers, were just fine. But yeah, that's it. I know it wasn't a super specific review, but it's a Morrison book. Like, I don't know what you want from me. It's good. I think you should give Morrison Green Lantern a chance. At least the first 2 volumes, which is all of season 1, because that's all I've read. So I can't recommend the last 2 because I haven't read them, But if they keep up with what this has started, I think they'll be very interesting. I can't wait to see what happens. And I do already own them. I just have to read them. So that's it. Thank you all very much for your support. Please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out all the cool links in the description below. Facebook, Twitter, etc. And I'll be seeing you all next time. Bye for now.